We had a solid night of wrestling for Fyter Fest Night 1, but with it comes some change to what's going to happen next week. We now know the fate of Jon Moxley versus Brian Cage, and we also know that we are horrible when it comes to predicting the outcome of our shows. What's up, everybody? Eric here from That's Wrestling. Thanks for tuning in to the AEW Dynamite post-show review. Be sure to like and subscribe, and if you are listening to this as a podcast, head over to the YouTube channel. The link is in the show notes because we actually do these shows live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So you can come hang out, ask questions in the chat and all that fun stuff. Also, I do a almost daily, but whenever, Newswire. It's short 5 to 10 minute video just covering any news that happens to be AEW, New Japan, or anything super big that pops up in the industry related. And be sure to head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star review, hopefully. There's also a Discord in the link in the description of the podcast and the video. And if you want to send any mailbag questions, comments, feedback, all that fun stuff, send it over to Eric at that'swrestling.com. And as always, I have Pro Warrior Alliance superstar Dustin West. How's it going?
Whoa! You're the only person to ever refer to me as a superstar. Thank you, Eric. I'm doing great, brother. Last night was, I think, a pay-per-view quality just a really, really good show. But before we start talking about that, real quick, I got to give a shout out to a fellow warrior of mine, Jay Savage. You might know him as Joe Markle, but Jay Savage, aka Thy Savage, named Jay, York, PA boy, born and bred, brother. He just did a tour with MWA, which actually stands for Midgets with Attitude. I think that's badass. He just did a tour with them. So local independent wrestling is slowly but surely starting to get there, but he is one half of the PWA Tag Team Champions. But I want to give him a shout out because last weekend he actually won, which I believe to be his first out of PWA championship with MWA. He is the current MWA champion. So you know what it's like. If anyone knows what it's like to win a professional wrestling championship in independent, I mean, it's such a big deal, and that dude busts his ass. He's one of the hardest workers I've ever met. He's taught me a lot since I've been in the business, so I want to give a shout out to Jay Savage real quick, brother. I'm proud of you. Congratulations. With that being said, I got that out of the way. Eric, besides our horrible predicting methods, would you like to kick it off and talk about Fyter Fest?
All right, let's get into it. So Jericho came out on commentary. He was wearing a very gaudy jacket of Canadian flags and Canada written all over because it was Canada Day yesterday, so it was pretty funny. And we start off the show with MJF and Wardlow coming out. MJF is wearing a pink muumuu for whatever reason, bubblegum pink to be specific, and bubblegum pink trunks and knee pads as well. Not a good look for him, I don't think. MJF basically cuts a short promo, says he's sick of facing Jurassic Express, but he figured out why it's happening is because they're in a ratings war, and having MJF on the front end is how you get the W. And then basically Jungleboy and Luchasurus and Morgo Stunt come out in not their favorite, not their usual fanfare. Jungleboy was not riding on Luchasaurus's shoulders. And actually they actually mentioned that this is actually the first time MJF and Wardlow have tagged together. And they've been together for what, like 9 months now?
Yeah, for a long time.
That's crazy. Anyways, near kind of in the middle of the match, they actually pull the ref at one point, and Jungleboy tags Luchasaurus, but of course he doesn't see the tag, so he pushes Luchasaurus back out, and they work over Jungleboy for quite a while. Luchasaurus eventually gets a tag, hits a massive kick to the face of Wardlow, hits a spinning knee to MJF. I love that spinning knee. It looks so good. Yeah. Hits a heel kick to Wardlow. to the head, and then another high kick, and Jungleboy does 3 dives to the outside, going up between each rope, and then he does the last one over the top rope. Wardlow actually attacks Jungleboy out on the outside. Luchasaurus hits his flip over dive that he likes to do using the second rope as like a springboard, and Luchasaurus hits a step up Rana on Wardlow hits a step up Rana on Luchasaurus, so just like he did last week. Jungleboy hits a poison Rana on Wardlow, and then we have a total breakdown of the match here, and everybody gets laid out, and then everybody does a kip up all together pretty much. I think Jungleboy and MJF do it at the same time, and then Luchasaurus and Wardlow at the same time. Jungle Boy uses the back of Luchasaurus and Wardlow to hit a Canadian Destroyer on MJF, and then Marco tries to get involved, but Wardlow throws him onto Jungle Boy, who's on the outside. Wardlow hits a senton off the top rope. That looked pretty good. And then MJF misses a punch with the diamond ring. Wardlow is holding Luchasaurus back here. Luchasaurus moves out of the way. Luchasaurus then kicks MJF's arm, and which then punches Wardlow with the diamond ring. Luchasaurus hits a bunch of kicks on Wardlow. Jungle Boy removes MJF from the equation, and then Luchasaurus hits a standing shooting star press for the win. I thought this was a pretty fun match, and I like how they finished it up because MJF is yelling at Wardlow that, can you do anything right? So they're like kind of they've been teasing a breakup forever, but I think it's probably still going to be a long time before we actually see that come to pass.
Yeah, they could take their time pulling the trigger on that, man. This match, again, starts off with a tag match. It's the kickoff Fyter Fest, brother. It was fast. I like how it started with MJF kind of giving a burn. Well, I forgot the exact wording, but it was basically saying how Jungle Boy could have been sitting in California counting his dad's money.
Yeah. Yep.
Ooh, of course, his dad, the late Luke Perry. That is exactly why Jungle Boy just ran right on out and started throwing hands, man. This started out really, it felt personal, especially the weeks leading up to Fyter Fest, which I was kind of really wondering how it was going to start, especially with MJF cutting a promo, which proves why he's arguably the biggest dick in professional wrestling, but that's the whole thing. My grandmother has the exact same robe that she likes to put on when she goes to get her mail in the morning, so all things aside, there were a couple things with this match that I caught. One, how Luchasaurus was handing out kicks like they were hotcakes. Yes. It was everyone got one, man, and they looked vicious each and every single time. The Jungle Boy F10 counter was dope. He countered an F10 with a Hurricane Rana. Well, there was a moment though. Wardlow seemed really early on a 2-count breakup. It looked like he jumped in the ring, and it wasn't long. But if you look for it, it feels like he was sitting in there for a little while because he climbed in. It was one, and that's kind of when he made his move. He's like, oh shit. And then it felt like forever before he finally got in. But besides an early misfire on a breakup, there was a lot of really, really big moves in this, man. The Canadian Destroyer, which you brought up, bouncing Wardlow off Luchasaurus, which does every big guy in AEW have to just be able to do things that you only see guys 205 pounds do? Right. I feel like, is that a requirement? Because Luchasaurus going over the top, a Swanton, I mean, a Canadian Destroyer. This match was fun, man. This was a really, really solid tag match, especially for a tag match that isn't designed to set up a rivalry. This is a tag match that already exists in a rivalry. It didn't set up a tag team opportunity down the line, which I hate using the word opportunity, but it's kind of beaten into my brain. This match was great, man. I think they're definitely going to be teasing the Wardlow, and actually they've been teasing this breakup for as long, maybe, as they've maybe not as long as the Hangman Page Omega breakup. But I had one question because I was on dad duty. There was this mark where Marco's stunt was standing on the apron. Why did he get up on the apron in the first place?
I don't remember. I'm guessing it was some cheating of some kind from Wardlow and MJF.
Yeah, I guess I must have missed it because I look away and I look up. It's like, wait, what the hell? And I tried to rewatch it, but something else distracted me because I have ADD pretty bad. But no, the match was great. It was a great way to start off Fyter Fest. I mean, kudos. I mean, that was a great match. I like the finish especially too. I like.
Yeah, that Canadian Destroyer where Jungleboy ran across the back of Luchasurus and Wardlow and then gave the Canadian Destroyer to MJF. That was pretty awesome. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it had a lot of moves and counters that I've never really necessarily seen before. So they definitely made use of the first match and the last match are always the most important. You want your first match to start it, and you want the last match to be the exclamation point. And I thought this match was a solid opener all across the board.
And then we go to commercial here, and then after we come back from commercial, we have Joey Janela and Lance Archer are fighting a bit in the crowd. Joey Janela has a tough time getting his shirt off, and we have Jake Roberts in the background laughing hysterically, and but it's broken up pretty quick, so it's just a kind of a quick setup that will continue on to next week. Oh, and if anybody hears crunching over my microphone, my dog is chewing on a bone next to me, and I don't have the heart to take it from her.
Oh, speaking of dog, Eric, not to interrupt, but you just skipped over arguably the most important part of next week, which is the AEW Puppy Royale. Did you see that commercial?
Commercial was because I was watching the fight feed, which was not on the fight feed.
Ah, yes. Next week, it's like the Puppy Bowl. They do the Super Bowl. But it's a Puppy Royale, so I'm not necessarily excited, but okay.
We'll see. I think it's going to be after, and I don't think it's actually. I think it might be on YouTube or something. We'll see. All right, then we have what I think was possibly the match of the night: Penelope Ford versus Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's Championship. This started off even before the match started. Kip Sabian and Shida got into a little scuffle, pushing each other, and Aubrey ejects Kip Sabian right away. He grabs Hikaru Shida's kendo stick and leaves with it, so she can't use it. So Penelope Ford is on her own for a while here. And then right out of the gate, Shida hits the running knee, goes for the Falcon Arrow, just like she did on the squash match last week. They almost had me convinced it was going to end like that, but it did not. It continued on. They had great back and forth. Shida hits her rising knee when Ford is draped off the apron on the outside. Ford hits a suplex with a bridge for a 2 count. And then throughout the commercial break, Ford was in control the entire time. She also got a bunch of cheap shots and cheating and pulling the hair and all that fun stuff. She also worked over the back with a few holds. And Shida comes back. She hits a few kicks, and then Ford hits a reverse DDT. They have a bit of a slap battle, but I think they needed to put a little bit more into those slaps. They didn't look like they had much on them, so look kind of weak. Shida hits a backbreaker and a Falcon Arrow. Ford actually rolls it into a pin, only gets a 2 count here. Shida hits a running knee, and then she goes up to the top rope and she misses a missile drop kick off the top rope. Ford hits a stunner for a 2 count. Ford distracts the ref here. She goes to the outside. She grabs the title belt like she's just going to walk away from it. Kip Sabian runs out. Hikaru Shida ducks a kendo stick swing and punches Kip Sabian, who then throws like the kendo stick up in the air. She grabs it and then wails Sabian right in the head. Ford hits a lethal injection for a 2 count. They didn't call it that, but that's what it was. Shida hits 2 running knees and then a Falcon Arrow. 1, 2. Ford kicks out, and then like no one can believe it. It was a great false finish here, and then Shida gets up, hits a Shining Wizard, and then gets the 3 count. I thought this was possibly it was probably the best women's match in AEW so far, and could have been match of the night on this night.
I definitely agree with you. I definitely called that match of the night, and we were talking the entire time during Fyter Fest, and this match, hands down, was match of the night. All right, so one, Kip Sabian, I guess, isn't getting his new sunglasses that Shida broke last week, because if Penelope Ford won, Kip Sabian was owed glasses from Hikaru Shida.
Yep.
He's not going to get them. But what I loved about this match of the night, hands down, probably easily the best match that the AEW Women's Division had. This match, I remember when Nyla Rose and Hikaru Shida fought at Double or Nothing, and it was just tough. And I remember I wanted Nyla Rose to win, but I thought Hikaru Shida winning how she won just added that level of toughness to the women's division, and it carried over into this match. And I loved how it carried over from last week when Hikaru Shida and Penelope Ford got a little bit of an altercation on the sidelines. Hikaru Shida went in, bam, 1, 2, 3, left the ring, and then just started beating the shit out of each other. And it was great. And that carried over into this week. There wasn't okay, this happened last week. We're going to we're going to start off slow. It just picked up. And it really added that level of tenacity and that just that personal factor that you're really looking for in a match like this. This match really, again, if you want to be in the main event scene for the AEW Women's Division, this match is the standard. You know what you have to do to beat the champion, to win the championship. This match was fast. It was explosive. Kip Sabian threw that kendo stick really high in the air, by the way. It was it was comical. It made me laugh, man. But that knee, when you have a match like that, you don't want a period at the end of it. You want that exclamation point, man. That knee, and I always use that term, but it's true. That knee was the deciding factor, man. This match was great. It was a lot of fun. It was solid. Match of the night. The women's division that's what you got to do to win, man. And it was a really, really great match.
Yeah, and even then, like they didn't do anything crazy. It was all pretty basic. They didn't do any really dangerous spots at all. I don't even think they did a superplex or anything like that. I think the only thing off the top rope was Shida missing the missile drop kick, so she didn't even hit Penelope. So they didn't do anything crazy, and it all came out well. I just think those slaps, they could have added a little bit more behind them. Like, I kind of want Shida to throw the punch that she did to Kip Sabian last week in the match. But other than that was kind of my only seems a little weak. But other than that, I thought this match was really fun. And like I said, right out of the gate, when she hits that running knee and goes for the Falcon Arrow, they almost had me that she was going to take it that way.
I remember you told me that. No, but with Penelope Ford too, I really liked how Aubrey was the official, right, for this match, I believe. Yeah, I love how she got Kip out of there immediately, because up to this point you've seen a lot of outside interference, which you did in this match. But what I really liked, putting Penelope Ford out there by herself with the AEW Women's Champion, because you showcased how dangerous. I mean, she's really good. I mean, I'm high on Penelope Ford. She's a Philly girl. I've seen her in the Indies. Like, she's a really, really solid worker. So you get to see her by herself, and she was great. But then when you get that outside interference, it just, I thought, added a little bit of level of how dangerous Penelope Ford could be with or without Kip Sabian.
Well, yeah, because Sabian's outside interference backfired. He didn't get any, he didn't get anything, and it didn't cause any issue for Shida. So even if he hadn't even come in, Penelope was holding her own with Hikaru Shida for quite a while.
Yeah, and especially holding, like, the entire time it was picture by picture. Like, she had control. She put in a lot of good offense, man. It made both people. When you have a match like this, you want both people to come out of this looking stronger, especially on a title defense. And this match did exactly that.
All right, next up, we had a video segment. It was Technique with Taz once again. He's talking about Moxley's double underhook that he uses for the paradigm shift, and talking about how, once again, Brian Cage is too muscular for Mox to get the underhooks as deep as he normally does, so it's going to be an issue for him delivering the paradigm shift that he does. Then we go to Jake Hager versus Cody for the TNT Championship. I was surprised they stuck this in the middle, but I'm glad that they did. Because I think this was probably the weakest match of the night. We had Hager was joined by his wife Catalina, who was introduced as the uncrowned Miss United States, Catalina, and then Jake was introduced as Rock Hard Jake Hager. We have some nice chain wrestling out the beginning here. Arn actually distracts Hager, and Cody hits a springboard dive to the outside. Cody tries a calf slicer and then puts on the figure 4. Hager gets to the rope. Cody hits a disaster kick and then goes for a second one, but Jake catches him and gives him a suplex. They go out onto the outside, and Jake attacks Arn, who Jericho calls Wilford Brimley, which I got a chuckle out of that. And he's basically pushes Arn against the side of the stage, and Cody comes in to try to break it up and gets a suplex on the floor for his trouble. Jake is in control throughout the entire commercial. Cody gets thrown to the outside at one point, and Catalina walks across his back with her high heels, so I bet that feels good, the point into your back. After the break on the outside, Arn is standing between the guys and the post, so Jake wants to throw Cody into the post. Arn is standing there between them. So Jake disengages for a second and takes a step at Arn. Arn immediately moves out of the way, and Cody pushes Hager into the post. And then back into the ring, Cody hits a Cody cutter off the top rope. And then we go into the finish, which I don't think worked very well. We have Cody gets to the ropes to break up an ankle lock. And when the ref is pulling Hager away, Catalina gives Cody a slap. Arn Anderson pops up onto the ring on the other side, onto the apron, protesting about it. Dustin runs out. Hager walks towards the stage to confront him. Hager gets punched by Dustin, and then Cody goes for a crossroads, but Hager turns it around into a Uranagi and then puts on the head and arm triangle, and they're on the ground, but he's rolled to his back, and Cody pins him, and Cody passes out at the same time as the 3 count. So Jake thinks he's won by referee stoppage. He starts arguing at the ref once he realizes that is not the case when they announce that Cody is still the champion. He argues with the ref and then punches out the ref. And then all the refs and stuff from the backstage come out, and Hager walks off with his wife really pissed off.
Yeah, so I watched this match again because I didn't like it. I liked it, but I didn't like the finish. And I thought the reason why I didn't like it was because the match before was just so good. And so I rewatched it. It was definitely the weakest. I didn't dislike it, but that finish, when you are on your back and you hear a ref counting to 3, you should assume that you're the one being pinned. I don't get it. He was on top. The ref, you could very loudly hear the ref banging on Mike Posey, I think was his name.
Yes.
You could hear his heavy hand hitting the canvas. 1, 2, 3. You could hear Cody's music. You could hear the announcers saying that and still TNT champion Cody. And then so basically everything is happening, and somehow Jake Hager is oblivious to everything. And he stands up, he's flexing, screaming to the camera.
Cody's music is playing.
Yeah. Cody's all signs literally point to Jake Hager losing this match. And he's still standing up like, woo, like I'm the man. And I don't know. I think the finish, I think on paper it probably looked a lot better. The execution, I thought it was executed properly. I think the intended finish was exactly what we saw, but it made the match to me feel flat.
Yeah.
I just there were a lot of really good things in this match. They had a really good I like the stats in the beginning. They're talking the grapple and strikes per average, how they throw. They had really good follow-up road hits. The ankle lock chain was really slick. They had a lot of really good moves, but the finish just fell flat with me, man. I didn't like it.
Yeah, and as somebody mentioned in the chat here, Daxers, he says, I'm not capable to like Cody with all the BS related in the matches. So with Arn Anderson constantly getting involved, it's like, okay, can Cody not fight his own fight anymore? Because Cody used to be all about doing everything on his own, and now we have Arn constantly getting involved, causing issues, and it seems like now his manager is just causing problems.
Well, it's actually funny. Who was that in the chat that said that? Daxers. Well, buddy, guess what? You get a gold star because I had that written down right here on my same notes. Because also, I pointed out, did you catch that in the picture-by-picture, the Hager no-sold a gut punch?
I did not catch that. I was probably right when I was typing.
Ah, okay, yeah. So, but I wanted to ask you how you feel about it, because I agree completely. Arn Anderson, I know he's the enforcer. He's Arn Anderson. And you're having heel-like tactics of interfering. Granted, it was happening on the other side too. But this does seem like it's becoming a lot more frequent, especially when Cody gives us the whole, he may not be the fastest or whatever, but he will outwork you. Because he is that good, and he is that good. But my question to you, Eric, is how do you feel about a face, Cody, who is people are always going to cheer for the guy, and Arn Anderson always getting himself involved with these matches? Do you feel that takes away from Cody's impact as TNT champion? Yeah,
I think it completely does. Like I've been not as high on Cody the past few months, actually, ever since Arn. It's basically been getting less high since Arn has come in and basically doing this type of stuff. It doesn't work for Cody's character. Mm-hmm. You can have a baby face, as we've seen in the past. Eddie Guerrero is a perfect example. Lie, cheat, and steal. And how he did it, he was clearly a babyface because everybody loved him. Here, we have the cheating doesn't go with the words that come out of Cody's mouth for when he does a promo and whatnot. Whereas Eddie Guerrero, in this example, completely acknowledged everything that he was doing. And it didn't come off as hypocritical. I think it's coming off as hypocritical now with Arn Anderson getting involved. And going back to this exact finish, we've seen this finish before in pro wrestling. It's not the first time. I've always hated this particular finish. One thing that I like about New Japan most of the time, if somebody has someone in a submission hold, even if the person who is in the submission gets the person to what would normally be a pin, a lot of the time the ref won't count it because the dude's in a submission. So it's not a legitimate pin. He doesn't actually have control. The guy who may be on the bottom technically has control, so they ignore the pin and that type of thing. So I think that type of ruling might serve AEW well if they get some more submission people. Right now it's not a big deal because not many people are using submissions, but if you had like a Zack Sabre Jr. or something like that, who's going to be going for submissions the entire match, then that would be a rule that I'd like to see kind of implemented. If you have a submission on somebody, you're in control, not the person who might get your shoulders down even though they have no control at all.
Right, I had this dude by the neck, but my back is down, so he obviously has control. No, yeah, I think if they're going to keep running with Arn Anderson, just tone it down. I know I'm telling as a fan, hey Arn, tone it down. I know how stupid that sounds because he is the enforcer, but it just doesn't match considering everything up to this point with like Taz and Cage. And I mean, you have and then you have Jake Roberts and Lance Archer. Like you have these mentors / coaches / just I guess managers or whatever. And it's all meshed so properly. But for some reason, this Arn Anderson Cody thing, it's I'm not really liking it thus far.
Right. If he's going to get involved, there are certain types of involvement he can do and can't do.
Reactionary. Right.
So the time that he pushed Cody out of the way, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That's fine. Or in this match when he was standing between them and the post. Well, he's on the outside. One, you guys are fighting on the outside. Jake, that's your problem. He didn't really get involved, but jumping up onto the apron to cause a distraction to pull the ref so Cody can do something or something like that. That's when it starts to fall farther outside of the realm of what you should be doing as a face manager.
Yeah, just tone it down or figure something out that works.
Or we are going heel eventually, and this is a slow burn.
I could see that. If the payoff isn't a slow heel turn down the line, then this is unnecessary.
Right, exactly. If that's the case, then I'm perfectly fine because I'm starting not to like Cody.
Right, and maybe that's the whole goal, but as of right now, I'm kind of hoping that's the direction they go.
Right, or it could actually go down to a breakdown between Cody and Arn Anderson as well, where Cody... Because a lot of the stuff, Cody doesn't realize what's going on sometimes, so some of the cheating he might not be aware of.
Yeah, but like we've said before, this is AEW. They leave you guessing, so right. We'll see.
We'll see. Darby Allin sends in a skate video. Nothing spectacular. He's in a phone booth. I don't think there are any working phone booths on the planet anymore. And he's basically, what, they just want me to sit at home and think I'm going to do nothing? Whatever. He hangs up somebody and I'm spilling stuff here. And really it's just some skateboard tricks. He does a backflip onto his skateboard and that's about it.
I mean, it looked cool.
Yeah, it looked fine.
There you go.
All right, so before the next match starts, Orange Cassidy comes out. He has a steel chair with him, and he sets it up next to the commentary table to hang out, kicks his feet up onto the commentary. Jericho is incensed about this because he is still out there. And actually, Orange Cassidy had a lower third, said he needed 3 stitches in his ear because of last week. You can see where the stitches were, so that probably did not tickle. Jericho calms himself down, and then we go into the match. We have Private Party with Matt Hardy coming out versus Santana and Ortiz. A little bummed, no security guard and velvet rope for Private Party during their entrance. And somebody mentioned, I didn't notice it, that they had new entrance music, and I like the old entrance music better.
That somebody was me, by the way.
Was it you? I thought it was Mighty Mouse, so I wasn't sure. Let's see. We have fast-paced action back and forth. Basically a match that you would expect out of these two. Plenty of high-flying from Private Party. Santana and Ortiz took more of a brawling style. And that was kind of the most seriousness of the match. Santana, near the end of the match, grabs the mad ball, but Hardy jumps up on the apron and takes it from him. Santana and Ortiz set up Mark Quinn for a street sweeper. Santana is up on the top rope and he's holding himself in place. So Mark Quinn grabs Santana's headband and pulls it over his eyes. Santana can't push it back up over his eyes because he's using his hands to keep himself steady from falling off the top rope. He gets off of Ortiz's shoulders. Cassidy hits a backbreaker on Ortiz to send him out, and then they hit gin and juice on Santana to pick up the win.
Yeah, and this also gave us a loss.
Well, sorry, what was that?
And then this also gave us our other loss because we both had Santana and Ortiz winning.
Well, this is our second of third of 3. And this match was actually announced that after the match that the winner is going to face the tag. They're going to go on to challenge for the tag titles next week on Fyter Fest, as Moxley versus Cage has been pushed a week, right. Which we'll talk about in a minute. But after the match, Cassidy is dancing in front of the commentary desk, and Jericho throws a water bottle at him, and then he throws one at Orange Cassidy. I don't think Orange Cassidy even saw it coming, but he completely no-sold it. And then Orange Cassidy, he slowly gets up. He just kind of tips over the chair So really slowly, Jericho goes nuts and goes out to try to attack him. Ton of people will hold them apart, and Jericho is gone from the commentary for the last match. But I thought this was pretty funny with Orange Cassidy no selling, getting hit with a water bottle like right in the chest.
Yeah, and we both don't know for sure if he no-sold it or if he just didn't see it because of his sunglasses. Right. So,
but he didn't he didn't even flinch when it hit him.
Oh no!
So I'm like, I don't even know if he even saw it coming, but he still completely no flinched it, which that's a feat.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm like the most macho guy in the world, but like I would have flinched if you throw a water bottle at me for sure.
Yeah. So going back to the match, was there anything that stood out in this match? Because I don't remember anything in particular that was super worth noting.
Yeah, no, nothing. The match was fine. There was nothing. I mean, it was Santana Ortiz. I mean, not generic Santana Ortiz. I mean, they did their moves. Private Party did theirs. Private Party picked up the win.
Private Party did not do silly string, which I hate with a passion.
I know you do. I don't know. So what I took out of this match was, and I think I talked to you pretty much as it was kind of happening. Inner Circle. What's going on with them, man? They are on a little bit of a losing streak lately.
Right.
I don't know. The match. I'll just stop talking about that. The match was fine. It was a tag match. It's set up for next week, adding another tag team title defense on the card, which I'm excited for that. But the Inner Circle. So Hager lost. Santana and Ortiz lost. Jericho hasn't had his match yet. But leading up to this, because I don't know what it was, but after this match, I remember thinking, like, well, when was the last time like the Inner Circle like really felt like they were the Inner Circle? It's been a couple weeks. So
yep.
I don't know. I kind of miss the old just tough grit. We're the Inner Circle. We're better than you. We're bigger than you. We can do whatever the hell we want. And I haven't had that from these guys in quite some time.
Yeah, well, I think the place that they're in now serves its purpose. If they aren't going to be, if Santana Ortiz aren't going to be in the title picture currently, if Jericho's going to stay out of the title picture for a while, we have Jake Hager has actually challenged for both titles at this point, both singles titles on the men's side at this point. And then obviously Sammy's gone for a while. We don't know when he's coming back, but Cody expects he will be coming back. So I think at this point you just need to put Inner Circle in a holding pattern. I think that kind of makes the most sense. Leave them in this area. They're very entertaining. They obviously can have good matches and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I think this is probably the holding pattern that you stick them in until you decide, okay, you want the push back up, or if you want the Inner Circle to implode. You can go either way.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Hold them where they're at. Keep entertaining. I mean, it's not like they're not on TV every week.
Right.
So, I mean, they're always out in front of you. But, yeah, I guess just hold them until you decide to pull the trigger. So, that makes sense.
Right, and I think their personalities, all of them can absorb losses all the time. And I think they can, just give them a couple weeks and you could build them back up in under a month, no problem.
Agreed.
All right, so we have Hangman Page and Kenny Omega have a little interview segment with Dasha backstage. She asks how they're feeling. Hangman says they're feeling great. He says he is feeling great. He never said they. I just realized that was one thing that I noticed in this promo. We'll talk about it in a second. So Hangman says he feels great. He loves the best friends, says everyone's been saying that they deserve a title shot, and they're right. But tonight, they're in the ring with, they did say us. They're in the ring with us with these titles. Then he said with my titles, and the word deserve dries up. And then Kenny says, look, week after week after week, we have defeated every single tag team that this division has thrown at us. Every week the results are the same. This week will be no different. At the end of the night, we will be standing in the ring with the belts. So one thing I noticed in the promo, especially with Hangman, he made it about him almost all the time. He said he said us once, and then he said these titles, and then immediately corrected to my titles. So interesting, and especially how the match ends up playing out, a little interesting as well.
Yeah, it's again, they're teasing it. Whether they decide to pull the trigger on it or not, I don't know. But it's there it was.
All right, we have they run down the card for next week, throwing in that Private Party will be facing the winners of the tag title match next week, which is the reason because of this is replacing Moxley versus Cage, which has been pushed to the 15th, which they're going to call Fight for the Fallen. So Fight for the Fallen last year was a BR Live special after Double or Nothing. Well, so was Fyter Fest as well. So both of these were free on BR Live. They're going to be Dynamite episodes this year. And again, it is going to be a charity show raising money for COVID relief this year. And this plays into the promo that comes up. Taz comes out with Brian Cage. Brian Cage actually has normal street clothes on for once. He's not just wearing tights for no reason. And Taz says the cat is out of the bag. Everyone knows what we found out earlier, that on July 15th the machine will get an opportunity. I hate that he said that at the AEW champion Jon Moxley, and people think that we'd be pissed about this. Nah, we're not upset over this. We're not upset that Moxley bought himself some time by politicking or whatever the hell he did. Nah, we're easy like a Sunday morning. Easy peasy. We're good. I had a nice conversation with Tony Khan. I learned that you're concerned about the health and well-being of everyone in AEW, which is a little weird. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but as you're at home, you've been tested at home not once but twice, and you've tested negative both times. And if you decided to get your ass to work next week, you would get tested again here in AEW, because John, as you know, we don't run a sloppy shop, which garnered some outrage from people outside of AEW. Mox, you have a case of one thing, and that's the chicken shits. You are afraid of the machine. You should be, because he's going to beat your brains in and take the championship from your dumbass at Fight for the Fallen. Who better than Brian Cage to be the AEW champion?
Hell yeah, this promo was dope. Okay, so we were sitting there when Cage came out with a shirt on. My wife and I were watching, and she goes, "He's wearing a shirt?" And I was like, and immediately I'm like, "Woman, like, I'm sitting right here." I mean, like, I get it, but damn, like, calm down. I love that promo a lot. The one case of the chicken shits, woo, man, that got me fired up, brother. I love a good Taz promo. This one, again, like, I was really digging the lead up for the AEW World Championship defense, but like even adding something as simplistic as, because last week we're like, is Mox coming? Is he not? What's he going to do? How's he going to stay away from Renee? It's going to be 2 weeks. And then you watch his Taz promo. 2 weeks of waiting for this match, just that promo alone, that 40 seconds, it got me fired up for it, man. This promo delivered. It was good. It was a really good segment.
And you can tell your wife that he is married to like a supermodel. So
I know I did. I had to pull it up on Wikipedia just to show
Melissa Santos.
But, yeah, but like, I don't know why. I mean, I get it, but like, but like, come on, man, I'm right here.
All right, so we one thing I was waiting for him to at least say wife or something along that lines, but wife was not mentioned.
Yeah,
I was hoping that would get mentioned, but oh well. We have Best Friends versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Page for the tag titles next. Best Friends arrive in a minivan driven by Trent's mom. She says, "Have fun, boys," and they start walking away. And she's like, "I think what did she call Trent? Because that's obviously not his real name."
Greggy.
Yeah. And he goes back and she kisses him on the cheek, and commentary is like, it's hard to look like a pit bull or keep your dog face when your mom's kissing you on the cheek or something like that. Hangman Page, when he comes out, his lower third says, "Not afraid to say the S word on TV," which I thought was pretty funny. FTR comes out halfway through the match with some beach chairs and a cooler, and they set up over by the commentary desk with some beers. They made sure to give Britt Baker one as well. Omega and Hangman Page make a lot of tags in and out, keeping Trent isolated for a good while. They hit a good amount of double team moves. On the outside, Hangman got sent into the barricade, and then Chucky T gave Omega an overhead throw into Hangman, who is sitting on the floor against the barricade. It looked like that sucked. And then Hangman manages to fight back in the ring, hits a massive clothesline. Omega gets tagged in. He hits a drop kick to the back of Trent's head, and then a fisherman's buster for a 2 count. Trent gets to his knees. Let's see. Trent gets up onto his knees. Trent gets his knees up on Omega's moonsault, and then he hits the sexy knee and gets a tag out to Chucky. Chucky hits Omega with a spike pile driver. Hangman comes in to break up the pin, and then Omega hits a snapdragon on both of the best friends, and then Omega and Page go to town, hitting a bunch of double team moves. They set up for the last call, but Kenny gets pulled out of the ring, and Hangman misses the lariat. Best friends set up and hit strong zero on Hangman. Kenny comes in and breaks up that pin. I almost thought they had it right there. Omega goes for the one wing angel on Chucky T. Chucky gets out of it, hits the awful waffle. That was a quick move into the awful waffle as well. And then Hangman decides, well, at this point, he's going to go it alone. He hits the dead eyes, gets a 2 count. And then Hangman, with Omega taken out, ends up hitting a buckshot lariat on Trent and gets the 3 count. So here, kind of tying back a little bit to that promo where he was saying he and my titles, Hangman had to go it alone at the end, and he pulls out the win by himself in the last sequence.
Yeah, this match was really, I mean, this definitely felt like it was the main event. Trent's mom needs to drive them down every. Well, I think it's funny because like we've seen Cody in that truck knock over a piece of styrofoam and plywood or whatever it was. We have FTR pulling up in that dope ass truck every week, and then we get this like white Dodge Caravan from like 1998. And it definitely looked like that's how me and my best friend looked when we were 15 years old, and my mom was dropping us off at the mall because that was the cool thing to do. And my favorite thing about that entrance was they're walking through, and Chucky T's he's kind of fired up. But then when Trent is walking away after he kissed his mom, he's just turning and waving. He's like, "Bye, Mom." Just like just like a little kid, man. And then the match picked up. The match was really, really great. Trent, by the way, has really, really, really solid ring awareness. There was a part where you see like that snap suplex. He was out of position, and you could tell they were still trying to follow through with it. And you could see Trent scuffle to make sure he was in the right place at the right time. I forgot what the follow-up of the execution was, but just catching stuff like that, I was like, damn, okay, that was pretty dope. And I want to point this out. A buddy of mine asked me, he said, well, Chuck Taylor hits the ropes weird. I was like, what do you mean he hits the ropes weird, dude? He's like, well, when he bounces off the ropes, he puts his hand on the middle rope. And I was like, well, yeah. So that's how I hit ropes too. And there's a reason for it. No one asked, but I'm going to tell you anyway, just because my friend is listening, and I want to tell you why. When you hit ropes, you see a lot of people just bounce off them. Sometimes, now it doesn't happen often, but sometimes, especially on independent wrestling and local shows, the top rope might come off when you're bouncing off it. Now, when that happens and you're bouncing off that top rope and that top rope is non-existent in place, you go over the middle rope and you will just it's going to ruin your day. You could really you could injure your neck, your back. You're going over and there's nothing you could do about it. Nothing's going to break that fall. So some wrestlers, not a whole lot of them hit the ropes this way. But once they bounce off, they put their right arm out, as you should, and then you take your left hand and you just cup it. You don't grab it. It doesn't slow you down. It's kind of like a reflex, because what's going to happen is if that top rope does disappear, your left hand's going to tense up, and you're not going to flip over and bust your head open. So Chuck Taylor does not hit the ropes weird. If anyone else has anything to say about that, that's how you were trained. Some people train like that. That's how I was trained. That's how I hit the ropes. Now,
that's funny, because I've seen other people training to make sure to grab the top rope and tuck it under your armpit. So, because if you do go to the second, sometimes your head could slip under the bottom rope, under the top rope, and then when you go back, you end up clotheslining yourself.
Yeah, it happens. It's funny, but like it does happen.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of different ways to hit the ropes. Like I said, how Chuck E. T hits the ropes, that's exactly how I've been trained to hit the ropes. It doesn't slow you down. It's just protection. It doesn't add anything. It doesn't take anything. It's a safety thing.
Yeah, so yeah, I thought this match was fun. It was good, high pace. The overhead throw to Hangman on the floor was kind of the most dangerous spot that they did. Plus, and Chucky hitting that awful waffle, because there was like no pause in that awful waffle. It went straight into it. Then kind of the biggest thing, though, is after the match, the fireworks. Yeah. The fireworks go off. FTR comes down to the ring. They offer beers to Omega and Paige. Of course, Paige is going to take a beer. Omega grabs one as well. He pretends that he's about to drink it, but then he dumps it out. Dax does not take too kindly to this. He takes off his jacket. Looks like he wants to throw hands with Omega. But the Young Bucks run out, and everything gets broken up a little bit. But we are left with Young Bucks and Omega on one side, yelling at FTR and Hangman on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So
I am glad you called that too, because if you aren't looking for it, it's going to look like they were just separating, and the camera sends off with them being split. Like, oh, they're just trying to break up a fight. I'm really happy you called that, because it's the Bucks and Kenny to the left, and then FTR and Paige on the right. Like, it was. If that doesn't foreshadow I mean, come on, man. That's the most subtle, hiding in plain sight thing that I have ever seen, and I loved it.
Yeah, and Omega was yelling at Hangman. They were yelling at each other. They weren't yelling at the at FTR or the Bucks. They were yelling at each other over accepting beers from FTR.
Yeah, it's something just so subtle, so planted, so it seems so innocent, but unless you're looking for it, you're not going to pick up for it. And you get two tag teams that we haven't seen fight each other yet, that I think we all agree is going to be a dream match. And then we get the current tag team champions standing opposite of each other, yelling at each other. So it was a nice little plant, dude. I dug it a lot.
Yeah, so as mentioned at the top of the show, we suck at predicting these things. We got Wardlow MJF versus Jungleboy Luchasurus incorrect. We did get Shida Ford correct. We did get Cody Hager correct, but we did not get Private Party versus Santana Ortiz, and we did not get Best Friends versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Page.
That's right. We are both sitting at a comfortable 2-3 heading into a night 2 of Fyter Fest.
Yep.
But
so,
yeah.
Okay, go for it. What were you gonna say?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say again, when we went through these picks last week, it's one of those things where on paper you're thinking, oh, maybe this. Are we going to pull this trigger? Are we going to do that? And again, the picks we made, like, I definitely thought Santana and Ortiz over Private Party made sense. And it kind of did, but at the same time, when Private Party wins, you're thinking, well, okay, so now they're fighting the tag team champions. There's so many things, like AEW, again, they're just so good at keeping you on your toes. So the booking is not boring at all. But if you're trying to make predictions, you're not gonna get it right.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to some podcasts today, and people are calling into the podcast were like, "This show was so predictable." It's like, well, it wasn't predictable to me.
Yeah, not me either. I got 2 right out of 5 freaking matches. Are you kidding me?
Right. All right. So just quickly, good news is that ratings did go back up, though NXT did get a win again, but AEW gained back 115,000 viewers versus their all-time low last week. So that's a plus. They're back to 748,000. NXT got 792. So that's the highest they have had. My chart only goes back to April, but that's the highest that they've had since April. And then overall viewership was 1.54 million viewers. So that is also one of the highs, just shy of May 27th's number, which was about 20,000 higher than that. But so 1.5 million spread across the two shows. That's pretty good for Wednesday Night Wrestling.
Oh, hell yeah. And then I'm also really curious to see what the ratings are going to be for next week, because next week is the Great American Bash.
Right.
Of NXT, and of course we get night 2 of Fyter Fest. So I'm excited to see the ratings for next week. But yeah, I'm glad some people are coming back. Especially, I mean, it was a good show. Like I said, that was a pay-per-view quality show we got on Dynamite. So I thought it was really good.
Yeah, and it shows that it wasn't people watching NXT over AEW, because NXT still had a higher number, with AEW gaining 115,000 people. So
right.
So yeah, that's a decent size audience. I don't know what happened last week. Last week was just kind of weird, I guess. All right, so we have night 2 next week. It will be Lance Archer versus Joey Janela. We're split on that. I'm taking Archer. You took DC.
I'm taking Janela, but after watching him trying to take his shirt off, I'm not feeling really good about my pick. But yep, I'm picking a different horse in the race. I'm taking a chance. I'm trying to pull ahead.
All right, Nyla Rose in action with a big announcement. We're not sure what that is. I'm assuming this is, if she's in action, it's going to be like 1-2 moves and done, because there are 5 other matches on the card. We have SCU versus Brody Lee, Stu Grayson, and Colt Cabana. We're both going for the Dark Order faction on that one. Chris Jericho versus Orange Cassidy. We both went for Chris Jericho on that one. I think I'm going to stick with that as well. And then Lucha Bros and Butcher and Blade versus Bucks and FTR. We both took Lucha Brothers and Butcher and Blade. I think that's still the way it's going to go.
Yeah, I don't know, especially considering what we just saw, how this show ended. But I'm still going to stick with Lucha Brothers and Butcher and Blade.
And then we have Private Party versus Omega and Page. I'm still going to go Omega and Page on this one. I don't think Private Party is in the running to win here.
Yeah, Omega and Page, definitely.
Cool. So, and then we have Moxley versus Cage on the 15th. So we'll see how that rest of that card plays out. If they're going to name it Fight for the Fallen, I wonder what else they're going to put on that card. Maybe we'll see another Hikaru Shida title defense or something like that.
Maybe. Well, you wouldn't happen to know off the top of your head who's next in line for a women's championship match, would you?
I think Nyla Rose is technically the number 1 contender right now.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah,
I'd be fine totally with that. Sure.
Yeah, could the rematch, because she hasn't had it. Rankings as of July 1st. We have Nyla Rose is the number 1 contender. Penelope Ford is number 2, but that was prior to losing last night. So
gotcha.
I would say it's going to be Nyla Rose, and then the next one is Big Swole. She's number 3.
Damn. Okay.
And unfortunately, 4 and 5 are injured with Statlander and Britt Baker.
Damn. Well, also, real quick on AEW Dark, I haven't really been able to get caught up again. I got a little baby at home, but from what I am able to watch, especially with the women's division, they have a lot of really, really great enhancement talent on Dark for the women's division.
They do. I hope they sign and bring some over to Dynamite. A big fan of Danny Jordan. I love her Mean Girl gimmick. It's funny. I think she could definitely be a regular on Dynamite. And then Red Velvet is pretty good. And then a few people out of QT Marshall's camp that haven't been able to be there because they've all been secondhandly exposed to COVID, so they're waiting that out. So
yeah, we shall see.
All right, so do you got anything else for this show to talk about?
Nothing to talk about, man. Same thing I always plug. I'll make that one quick. Just Pro Warrior Alliance. Go to facebook.com/Pro Warrior Alliance. Also support local independent wrestling. If you hear of any local talent, any local shows in your area, go check it out. A lot of big names. I mean, not every guy that you see automatically jumped in front of 80,000 people. I'm talking Adam Cole performed at a carnival in front of 4 people. You know what I mean? So go support local wrestling, man, because we are excited to get back into it, but facebook.com/Pro Warrior Alliance.
Awesome. And be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's now as a podcast. Check out the Newswire over on the YouTube channel. Share the content around. Go to iTunes. Give us a review. Discord link is in the description and show notes. Mailbag, eric@thatswrestling.com. And hopefully that is it. So my name is Eric LaRoche for Dustin West. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.